John, one of the smartest killers in television history, who easily surpasses characters like Dexter, Joe Goldberg, and Hannibal. A man who was always not one step, but 10 steps ahead of one of the smartest characters of fiction. Someone who managed to build a vast, secret organization deep inside America's most powerful law enforcement agencies and control it without anyone ever truly knowing who he was. He was so intelligent that, in the end, he was only taken down by poor writing, which I will tell you why later in the video. But who exactly was Red John? Where did he begin, and how far did he go? Most of Red John's past is still unknown, but it is established that he was born as Thomas McAllister in the 1950s or 1960s in California. No family members were ever named or shown after him in the series. In 2030, he told Sophia Miller that he had no living family, though it is unclear that he was telling the truth or not. In 1988, at around 30 years old or younger, Red John was a member of Visualize and worked on a farm for the organization in Elliston. There he painted his first known smiley face, which later became his signature. He also committed his first 2 known murders at the farm, killing his co-workers Martin and Alan. In the same time, after another co-worker, Gordon Bradovich, was killed by Holly Person, that barn was abandoned and no one noticed his kills. McAllister then disappeared for nearly 20 years until 2008. During this time, he moved to Napa County and became the local sheriff. He most likely established the Blake Association in this period as well. In 1998, Red John committed his 3rd known murder, the first in his main series of killings. He carried this kill with the help of his first known accomplice, Arvely Tanner. While Red John escaped, Tanner was arrested. Tanner, at his trial, claimed that he only had been a lookout and the real killer was Red John, calling the name Red John for the very first time. But the police did not believe Tanner. Surprisingly, Red John kept in contact with Tanner and continued to update him about his later kills. Tanner still considered him a good friend. In the following 5 years, Red John killed at least 8 more people. One of these was Janet Peake in 2000, a murder which almost went wrong when Janet's husband, Carter Peake, suddenly appeared and fought Red John. Despite the killer managed to overcome and kill Carter, the body of the man was embedded with his DNA, so he buried the corpse under concrete into the ground of a strip mall to hide the evidence. It is known that, at least during his first murders, some newspapers referred to the serial killer as the smiley face killer due to the drawing of a smiley face that he used to paint with the blood of his victims as a personal signature. However, the alias Red John eventually prevailed and McAllister began to be known by this name instead. Although it appears that McAllister himself created this alias, the real meaning of this alias Red John was never relieved. In 2003, mentalist and self-proclaimed psychic Patrick Jane, who had been helping the police on the Red John case, appeared on a talk show and taunted Red John, calling him
Red John. He's an ugly, tormented little man, a lonely soul. Sad, very sad.
This angered Red John, and that night he went to Jane's house and killed his wife and daughter, painting the toenails of Jane's wife with her own blood as a special gift for Jane. When Jane came back to the home, he saw a note on the door explaining Red John's motives.
Dear Mr. Jane, I do not like to be slandered in the media, especially by a dirty money-grubbing fraud. If you were a real psychic instead of a dishonest little worm, you wouldn't need to open the door to see what I've done to your lovely wife and child.
After Jane saw what happened to his wife and daughter, subsequently he suffered a breakdown and was admitted to a psychiatric facility, which he left that place after 6 months to join the CBI in order to find and take revenge on Red John. becoming his most lasting and ferocious adversary ever since. Between 2003 and 2008, Red John murdered 8 more unnamed women. These were likely his last killings without a direct connection to Jane. In 2004, a young man and alcoholic named Michael Kirkland joined Red John as one of his first accomplices and then went missing, although it was never proved. His twin brother, Robert Kirkland, thought that Red John had killed him, so he began to hunt down Red John out of revenge, much like Jane did for his family. In 2007, Red John met sisters Miranda and Lorelei Martins, introducing himself as Roy. He wanted to recruit the emotionally unstable Lorelei as an accomplice. To do so, he arranged for a tragedy to strike her. With help from followers Julia Howard and Jason Lennon, he kidnapped her sister Miranda, raped her, and left her to die in an abandoned warehouse. After his sister's death, Lorelei became vulnerable and was manipulated into joining him. Before she died, Miranda craved the name Roy on the floor, though this was not known to the police until much later. He expanded his vast secret known as the Blake Association. This organization included hundreds of corrupt police officers, FBI agents, and other influential figures. But how the Blake Association worked? When a person, usually a police officer or federal agent, became deeply involved in a crime and had no way out, a member of Blake Association would approach them with the offer of salvation. They promised to cover up all of their crimes, save them from prison, execution, and all that stuff, destroy all the evidence, and clear their name completely. In return, the person had to be ready to help the organization at any time and became even more corrupt. Whenever the Blake Association needed something or assigned them to a mission, they had to obey without a question. If they resisted or betrayed the group, the same people who had saved them would destroy them. But why Blake Association? The name Blake comes from William Blake's famous poem, The Tiger. Red John was so much obsessed with this poem that not only he named his association after him, he used the passcode Tiger Tiger for the organization from this poem, symbolized power, truth, and dark beauty, exactly what Red John wanted to represent. This network gave him nearly absolute power. He could raise evidence, close cases, and always stay one step ahead of the police. During these years, Red John operated this Blake Association like a ghost, powerful, patient, and completely invisible. He was not just a killer, he was a criminal architect who had spent years carefully building his secret empire. Red John always had this strange, personal obsession with Jane. It was like a game to him. Red John was the smartest player on the board, and Jane was a worthy opponent. But no matter how intelligent and powerful Jane was, in front of the ultimate player Red John, he was still just a pawn. When we reach the endgame and Red John reveals his true identity, he says to Jane in that same familiar voice he always used, "The game is over and I won."
It's totally fair. Game's over and I won.
The ending that Red John had meticulously planned for a long time was for Bertram to be revealed as Red John and for Patrick to kill him, and in the process, Patrick himself would also die in the fight. But everything didn't go the way Red John wanted. This, in my opinion, and probably the opinion of many others, is where the story's real weakness become apparent. The part that is so much important for the show and yet feels genuinely poor written. Before I tell you why I think this way, one important thing to keep in mind is that Red John's true identity wasn't even decided by the writers until season 6, and the reason they chose McAllister as Red John was simply because they thought it made the most logical and convenient sense at the time, not because they had some brilliant long-term master plan for the character. But my problem is not with McAllister being Red John. My problem is with the final scene. It is completely clear that Red John has the upper hand. He has lured Patrick to a place where no one can help him and is pointing a gun at him. Checkmate. But guess how Patrick turns this situation around? By throwing a beard at one of the most terrifying serial killers ever written. And you're telling me that Red John, with his supposedly superhuman intelligence, loses such a dominant position this easily? A gun versus a pigeon. And after that, Jane shoots Red John with a gun he had planted in the church from before, and finally gets his revenge for his wife and daughter by strangling and killing Red John. That was the end of the great McAllister, aka Red John. I hope you have enjoyed this video. Personally, I was very disappointed with the ending, but yes, I believe The Mentalist was one of the best series of all time, and personally my favorite. Let me know your thoughts about this ending that the writers gave us. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Take care until the next video.